the best place to work.
I love working here.
I feel very blessed.
I love it here.
I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you, we see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard.
We feel valued, we feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence.
I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30 plus years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back.
Providing a service to better a community.
To go out and serve people.
To be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of March 2nd. This week is Severe Weather Preparedness Week. Everyone is encouraged to participate in a statewide tornado drill, Wednesday, March 4th at 11 a.m. It is important to have a plan in case of a severe weather incident, such as a tornado. Shake off the winter blues and jump into spring this weekend in downtown Lee Summit for the Spring Open House Friday and Saturday. Shop new home decor, plants, apparel, gifts, and more. City Council will meet for a regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers and City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watch live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Keeping our city beautiful is a collaborative effort for all citizens. The City of Lee Summit supports these efforts with a set of guidelines or ordinances, and the city's neighborhood services team helps put those guidelines into practice. These guidelines ensure grass stays trimmed, fences are maintained, home exteriors are kept up, and much more. We can all help out by first making sure our property meets these guidelines. If you notice a potential violation on a neighbor's property, first check the guidelines on the city's website. If it is a violation, the next step is to communicate with your neighbor directly. If that is not possible, or if the problem persists, it can be reported through LS Connect. LS Connect is an online platform for submitting issues to the city. You can access it on the city website or by downloading the app through your mobile device's app store. Once you submit an issue, it is reviewed by the Neighborhood Services team. A Neighborhood Services officer will then visit the site. For any violations found, the Neighborhood Services officer will leave a notice and speak with the property owner if possible. The officer's goal is to help the property owner solve or abate the problem as quickly as possible. After a 10-day period, the officer will inspect the site to see if the issue has been abated. Normally, by this point, the issue has been resolved. If not, depending on the type of issue, an extension could be granted, or the city might fix the problem at the owner's expense. In rare cases, if all other measures have been applied, the issue will be resolved in the municipal court. Neighborhood services officers work hard to resolve problems quickly and positively. They are here to support the community as we work together to keep our city beautiful.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
Like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Police, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person and they responded immediately. And we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
I have always volunteered in the community, and I was always really involved, but then I ran for school board. Whenever I got done with my term, I just felt like I had more to give. It's always been my goal from day one is to get everyone in the community connected and working together, and I always called it a spirit of community. Well, mayor's 24/7, and I have a job. I've had to work really hard at compartmentalizing, is what I call it. So during this time, I'm going to do work. During this time, I'm going to be mayor, even though I can get a call at any moment about mayor stuff. And so I've had to even work that much harder at setting aside time for myself or for family. So I like to exercise, I like to work out. Hillary's my wife. She actually goes to work out with me as well. And we do like to go downtown to the shops. We make sure we maximize our time together. I mean, I've got 2 kids as well, and we spend a lot of time with them, or whatever time they will give us these days. And I have a dog. I think most people kind of know me know I have to have a dog. We have so much development going on, and we're growing fairly quickly, so we have a lot of infrastructure needs, and sometimes we have gaps in infrastructure, and we've always managed to get by, but with this kind of growth, we're really having to be creative and look at our options and just have a good plan for water, sewer, roads, and more. If we want to grow the most healthy way, we need a diverse economy. We do have a lot of retail that's opened up here, and there's been new construction for retail. We really need to focus in the future on bringing some, well-paying jobs here, good, strong employers that want to be located in this incredible community of now 101,000 people. A lot of our workforce does commute to work still, so they leave Lee Summit to go to work, and it'd be nice if we could keep some of those citizens right here in our community. The times I feel most proud are actually when I'm in the community and I see the community come together.
We have Buddy in the house! Mr. Mayor!
The tree lighting is always very fun. I always feel very proud It's just a great warm feeling. The same thing goes for when the council will do something and we come together and make a good decision together. There's been a few of those that you go home feeling like a winner. And one of them was when we put together the downtown farmers market, when we bought the land, and it became real, you know, all that hard work. But also the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, that was months and months of discussions and conversations that were really hard to have, and we went ahead and moved forward and as a council all together, and I was very, very proud of that. And there are a few things that the citizens have done that have really helped us tremendously. First, in the middle of a pandemic, they passed a use tax, which is a way for us to collect sales tax whenever someone purchases online. That helps shore up our revenues so that we can continue to provide as high quality services that our city provides. And it helps us take care of our employees, it helps us with our public safety and more. So I can't be more thankful to the citizens for that. Lee Summit has the opportunity to have a major impact on the economy in the Kansas City area. We already, as an economy, are rolling along with such a high median income. We have an amazing workforce here that are paying taxes, they're paying property taxes, they're paying sales taxes, they're keeping our economy rolling, and we really are getting the attention of all our neighbors. And I think that what's going to happen is you're going to see the opportunity for us to really get everybody's attention when businesses start moving here, bigger businesses and more so. You should try to find a way to give back to the community, whether it's at the city level, you know, citizen committees, or just participating in some of our community conversations whenever we have those opportunities. It's worth coming out of your shell or taking, you know, that leap of faith and just showing up and saying, what can I do or how can I help? The more that we do this together, the more wonderful the community is.
The Finance and Budget Committee for Monday, March 2nd, 2026. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Funk.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Here.
Vice Chair Lovell.
Here.
Chair Shields.
Here. All right, next up we have approval of the agenda. I would look for motion.
Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to move that we approve the agenda as published.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Can we get a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lovell.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next we have public comments. Are you sure we don't have any public commenters here today?
No public comments.
Okay. Then we'll move straight into items of business. First up is 2026-7502, approval of the February 2nd, 2026 Finance and Budget Committee action letter. Do we have any discussion? If not, I would look for motion.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the February 2nd, 2026 Finance and Budget Committee action letter.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second, to approve the February 2nd, 2026 action letter. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lovell.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item is 2026-7501, discussion of employee health insurance timeline and budget impact. Ms. Vargo?
Thank you, Chair Shields. Jennifer Vargo, Human Resources Director. If you recall, last month we came before you to ask for approval for our new benefit broker, Alliance Insurance Services, and it did pass. And so we are on day 2 now of their official partnership with the City of Lee Summit. During that discussion last month, we listened and we heard you all asking for more information, wanting to be better prepared for budget conversations, renewal conversations. And so in preparation for what's coming, budget for FY27, we wanted to just kind of set the stage and give you guys some information, talk through where our plans are today, what are the drivers that are happening nationally and regionally, and then what you're going to expect to see over the months and really the months ahead. We do have Alliant here today to do the presentation. We have no ask today except for your feedback, so we would like, and obviously discussion, but what we'd like to know is if we're on mark, if these are the things that you would like to see more of, and if and when you believe it's the right time to take this to full council, this type of information. And so I'm going to invite Rick Colley, Senior Vice President of Alliant Insurance Services, up. And we will start the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Rick Colley with Alliant. My colleague, Ann DePasquale, who learned on the way up here that she now has kid pickup duty, has to leave at 4:30. So if you have hard questions, I encourage you to ask them in the next half hour, please. Really great to be with you. You had asked during our conversations if we could have an insurance 101, and we could start the conversation about what's driving the predicament that you were in late last year. And the second thing that really I came away with is we need to start this process early in figuring out where are we, what's driving our circumstances, and what can we do about it. So today wanted to have the conversation of we've been scrambling and working with your existing carriers, tell you kind of what we've done to this point, what we've learned to this point, and within that conversation share with you Insurance 101 of what's going on, especially focus on the health and prescription side of things. That's what drives the majority of interest because that's where most of the cost lies. So that's what we're prepared to talk about today. Initially, we became the broker of record shortly after the council approved that. We went out to the marketplace and began gathering information on your behalf. So we've been working with all of your carriers on your health and welfare plans and your voluntary benefit plans. We've accumulated that information, and we have a summary of some of that data today. Quick history, you were coming off a rate cap on the medical side of a 9.5%. So the renewal was going to actually call for more than that effective 1/1/25, but you were capped at that level. Looking at where your losses are actually running, and I encourage you, let's not look at this as a Cigna problem. Our biggest challenge right now is our loss ratio. So what are we contributing in claims in comparison to what's our premium level on the medical plan? And the desired loss ratio is 91.7%. So at that point, Cigna's coming out in anticipated or expected level of cost. For the rolling 12-month period,
So for the last 12 months through January, your loss ratio was 139%. So we have a big delta there between those two. Last year, and a hastily done approach, as we understand it, you had presented with a large renewal and you made some changes that will help impact that loss ratio on a positive basis. You made some benefit plan changes. You also changed and put in a second network, a smaller network that Cigna offers that offers greater discounts. So you have taken some actions which will help impact this. At the same time, because of the difference of that disconnect, Cigna has still made an investment in the city. They started originally with a 36.1% increase and ended up moving that downward to get to your final renewal. We have a couple of new potentially large claimants that have recently popped up as of latter part of last week. So we're going to have a challenging renewal as we look towards 1/1 of 27. So I don't expect you to embrace or be great with that, but we're trying to tell you this as promised as early as possible. Here's the information that we have, and here's the math that's behind that. So I will pause for a second and see if you have any questions before I proceed.
I know I'll have a couple of questions on Councilmember level. Do you want to start us off, though?
Sure. On the 9.5% rate cap, was that a one year? Like, how many years will a carrier offer some sort of rate cap? They will periodically offer, and it tends to be a 1-year cap in which they will do that. They tend not to offer multiple years because of situations like the city happens. If they had had another cap in this year, you'd have had that cap, and then the deficit would have grown and made it much more difficult in the subsequent year. So they renewed in 2024 at whatever rate and said, we will cap you for 2025 at 9.5%, even if it was running hot or whatever. And sometimes that happens through the process of the marketing process. And as I believe as we talked last week, it brings up a really important point. One of the levers to try to keep the rates as aggressive as possible is marketing. The city has marketed year after year after year, and so there are only a handful of fully insured carriers that are available to you. I recommend that we do not do that again for this next year because you're already getting put in a pile of they market every year. That's not something that's going to be profitable for me as a new carrier. So last year, it's my understanding that only Cigna and the Blues responded to you. The others no quoted this. So I think what we need to do is work within this existing operating system with Cigna and work together to get our loss ratio to become more favorable so that when it's time to go back to the marketplace, there's appetite for your group. Yeah. So I don't think that's a bad point, and it's not dissimilar to what we face in the insurance. If your account is always out in the market, you can get some underwriting fatigue and run into some issues there. They know that it's heavily driven with losses, and so maybe not a desirable group. One of the things I'm sure we can get into it. So if we do look internal, I think there's a few things. Is like, what can we learn about our losses? What can we learn about our utilization? Whether that's pharmacy, whether that's if there is anything, right? So what we can do there, and then what we're doing internally, like what things, looking at. Yeah, we raised it from a $500 deductible to a $750, but I mean that's still really low in today's standards. So I think that as we try to move forward and get through this, I think that's probably a good strategy going in the first year, especially if we can start to learn more about how we're using our insurance benefits. Because those things can have as big an impact as whatever carrier you put on or whatever. So what can we do internally? We're going to have to take some pain from ourselves to right the ship, whether that's things we're taking on as higher deductible or whatever. And then what can we do to learn about the benefits, like how we're using these, what we can learn about our losses and things like that too. So I know that's the norm for a group of your size and complexity is to go in the marketplace every 4 or 5 years, right? Unless there's real problems with the carrier service-wise, or if they treat you unfairly from a rate perspective. Agree with your points. One thing that's noteworthy is that 47% of your employees migrated to the limited network plan. And roughly, there's about an 8 to 10% discount differential within that limited plan. So smaller network, but you get better discounts by offering that plan. So that was a pretty substantial migration in year one versus what we typically see. It usually moves to that over a couple-year period. So your employees listen to you. Clearly, you did a good job of communicating and helping them understand. And we will be watching very carefully to ensure that those people that went in that plan are staying in network and not using out-of-network providers, because then it's bad for them and bad for the plan if that happens.
That's it. I had some questions, if you can go back
please.
to that
Sure.
slide. So first of all, the pooling point, 150,000, does that mean basically like after we hit 150,000 for one person, then any excess cost isn't counted against our plan, or how does that work? Because I know the last slide shows like we had a few of our top claimants that were $1 million, $400,000. How does that work into this, and how does that affect that 139% number?
Yeah, great question. So the pooling point is intended to be a levelizer even in a self-funded or in a fully insured plan environment, so that one or two or three claimants don't blow the whole loss ratio. So the loss ratio is factoring in that pooling point. Only 150,000 of each claimant paid during a plan year is counting towards that loss ratio. The rest of it, part of the premium that you pay, goes to transfer that risk in effect, to have kind of internal reinsurance. So we'll look at 150,000 as a reasonable level to have at yours. We will look each year at higher pooling points to see what that trade-off is, but it is a stabilizer in your experience. If we move it up too high, then your loss ratio gets significantly worse potentially in a year like you had last year.
So even if we had, even if those, say, top 6 claimants hadn't had $400,000 plus claims, it wouldn't have impacted it, this loss ratio.
That's well said. It's not just the large claimants that have caused this to happen. There's utilization underneath this. We just
Does it make it challenging to get people to write the policies at all, though? Is that why we're not getting as many people wanting to quote us?
The market has constricted enough where really there's, with Humana getting out of it, there's 4 fully insured carriers for the most part that are big reputable carriers. You got Aetna, Cigna, Blues, and United, right? So you're with Cigna, you're with one of those 4 carriers. So they are, and they're experiencing significant trends in their own books. So they're getting more selective about their underwriting. Their profit margins are getting squeezed pretty substantially. So at a time where these rates are going up, there's a misperception maybe that these companies are doing really well. They're not. Their ratios are coming down.
They're not just looking at that 139% number. If they're looking at the total overall cost when you aren't knocking out that pooling point of folks having some really high claims, how that affects our ability to get anyone to even look at us.
You had a competent consultant. There were reasons that you left, but they're smart consultants. I would choose to believe that they were representing you properly in the marketplace.
No, it's,
yeah.
I mean, it's really just an honest question. Like, are folks, like when an insurer looks at whether or not they even want to quote us, are they looking not just at that number excluding the pooling point over 150,000? Are they looking at like the entire cost?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, they're looking at the whole picture.
Yeah.
And they're just making a calculation of if we were to overlay City of Lee Summit utilization over our network footprint, our discounting, the way we administer claims, our care coordination and management, can we make money?
Yeah.
And so most of them spoke last year by saying there's just such a big disconnect, we're not even going to quote.
Okay.
Plus, because you'd been out regularly. And that's what happened in a lot of the market, Chair Shields, was that there was a lot of marketing that happened over the past couple years, but not a lot of movement in the Kansas City marketplace.
Okay.
Very similar pattern to what happened with your group.
Okay. And I'm just trying to understand this very complex topic, and I'm not deeply familiar with it, so I appreciate
All questions are good ones, please. That's exactly what I was hoping for today. So.
And then I guess that kind of, you list this new ongoing risk of 2 new members with neurological diseases. So is that kind of, again, just expecting those to be kind of high cost claimants going forward just because of the medications, hospitalizations, whatever you might expect with that kind of condition?
That's right. Recent diagnosis information triggered from the carrier.
Yeah.
And we're only going to share a certain amount of information to you, but it's ones that
But
the
this
carrier
is
and
one
we
of those things that you're
perceive
telling us
could be.
early, so that we're not going to be shocked when you tell us that our claims are even higher this year than they were last year.
And sometimes, by the way, some of the large claimants from last year will no longer be or
Sure,
will go off
sure.
the plan. So sometimes there's some replacement.
Yeah.
Typically, we'll see about half the large claimants repeat in subsequent years.
Sure, okay.
But the message that you're getting is just right of if we were to underwrite the renewal right now, we would be looking at a substantial renewal increase in order to have the loss ratio be within the range of what Cigna's looking for.
Okay. And then my last question, because I think this is actually something kind of Councilmember Lovell has flagged before a little bit, the pharmacy benefit managers, when you look at these ratios and stuff, is that net of all the rebates that they may be getting, or is that before any rebates they might get that might?
Really good question. I'll have to ask Matt Cohan, who put this together, if it's before or after. It's a super good question. We're scrambling to get this stuff together quickly, and I don't know that one.
If you want to put a pin in that one and bring the information later, that's totally fine.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Because there are substantial rebates that exist that go
Right.
back to in a fully insured to help
Right, because some of
reduce
these
your loss ratios,
medications
money
can be
back in.
pretty
Over
hefty.
time, those rebates grew larger and larger. Some of those ones that were producing the larger rebates are starting to move off patent, or they're moving away to biosimilars and other drugs. So we anticipate the impact of rebates is going to slowly reduce over the next couple of years, but it's still significant. Great question.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee before we move on? All right, please continue. Thank you.
The next slide really just shows very high level, and a couple things to point out about this. So this is not specific to the city of Lee Summit. This is overall. Respecting the fact that we've got 4 generations in our workforce right now with different needs and different health needs. And also you add to the complexity of the city, where you have police, you have fire, you have white collar, blue collar, right? You have a potpourri of America within your workforce and within your plan. Let's see if there's anything else in this that the one in the middle there, I think we all feel this. Healthcare spending has doubled compared to wage growth over the past decade. And it's a reality, but one that, we hate to be in leadership and go to folks and say that between what I give you in a raise and what I'm going to have to pass on in increases and additional deductible and out-of-pocket responsibilities, people are going actually sideways or backwards, and that's happening way more often than we would like it to be. One other thing to note about this is the Lee Summit plans have been robust compared to others. As you shift those responsibilities more and more to the employees, the need for supplemental products or voluntary products may grow. So we will be looking at your menu, and as we look at potentially ways to improve the loss ratio, and we look at the benefit plan, if we create risk transference to participants, we will be looking at your voluntary benefits menu as a way to give the employees the opportunity to mitigate those risks. Does that make sense? Okay. Other factors increasing the costs, and also we have a slide here that will break down kind of in a little more detail what's driving the trend right now. But the shortage of primary care docs is real. It's now. Getting into specialty care providers is a challenge. You're seeing more and more nurse practitioners, NPs, that are going to be providing that care. So there's a lot of change that are happening on the provider side. One other thing that I will mention that is happening in front of our eyes, health plan providers like Cigna and the healthcare systems used to have conversations and negotiations, and they would typically settle those prior to actually falling out of grace in each other's networks and separating those contracts. We are seeing that happen more frequently now, and it's a function of the pressures on all sides of the equation. The healthcare systems have their clinical costs going up. They're asking for more and more money. The providers are trying to keep their premiums within reach of groups like yours, so they are trying to squeeze those rates as much as they can. Whereas in the past, it was so important to both that they partner up. That is not becoming as big a priority now. So we are going to have situations, and we're tracking them as close as we can, where we're going to be coming to Jennifer saying, there's an emerging problem here potentially with Cigna and XYZ provider group, and make you aware of that. Here's how we need to communicate to participants the possibilities. Here's the strategy associated with trying to make that work in potentially an interim period or perhaps ongoing. I'm just full of good news. Healthcare cost drivers. Core medical inflation is part of this. The high cost claimants is really important. The frequency and severity of large claims is, when 1% of the population is driving 50% of the cost, and that starts to really spike, we are seeing that in driving trend. Utilization is part of this. We still have some backside of COVID for people that were delaying care, that problems that became magnificent enough that are turning into those large claimants. That's part of what's driving that. Provider challenges we talked about. Upcoding is where providers are working internally to try to do a better job of charging in a way that's going to create a higher bill outcome. That's good for them. It's challenging for those that are paying that check. Pharmacy trend right now is running double digits unless you offer full GLP-1 coverage. If you do, then it's running in the 12 to 14% range. And then regulatory impact, not quite as much right now, but for those that look back at the Affordable Care Act, when you increase eligibility, when you increase the amount of things that are covered, it has real benefit to those that benefit from those things. But from the plan sponsor perspective, it adds cost to those.
I think we have a question.
You mentioned the GLPs. What did you say, like where they are covered, it's running, what did you say? 12 to 14% on the prescription part alone for trend when you're covering those weight loss drugs. Okay. And when you're covering those for weight loss, you are covering those for diabetes now. This would be an extension. If you said we're going to cover them from weight loss also, your trend will go up. So are there options to exclude certain drugs like that if it's not meant for a medical purpose other than, weight loss? I mean, obviously weight loss is an important medical purpose, but yeah, are there options? You as the plan sponsor typically will have the choice. Do we cover or do we not? And you're probably following the news. The Trump administration is working to come up with less expensive alternatives. We're not seeing that quite yet. The most favored nation pricing is not just GLP-1s, but a lot of different drugs, correct? A number of different drugs. Right. The GLP-1s are probably the most notable of those. Yeah. So for individuals right now, and by the way, it does add to the trend, but for some people, these can be life-changing and really helpful also, right? So there's a balance when you're making this kind of decision. All we know is the short-term cost is $1,200 to $1,400 a month, so we see that inflationary cost hit the claims right away. How that impacts people's lives is variable. Half the people can't stay on those drugs for longer than a 6-month period, so you've made that investment. People need to change their lifestyle if it's going to work. So I don't want to derail this conversation, but just knowing that there are some people that, in addition to lowering their A1Cs, they lose weight, they become healthier, more productive, right? There's some real good success stories. So this is something that's capturing a lot of our attention to say, what is the right balance of how and when we cover drugs like this?
But our plan doesn't currently cover them for weight loss, is that correct?
That's correct. It's just covered for diabetes only.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And these drugs have demonstrated efficacy in controlling urges. So those that are have these patents are trying to expand the usage. So we might be beyond diabetes to other elements that we might be told that these are going to be covered over time. Any other questions before I get past that? Okay.
Please go on.
Pharmacy landscape. We've talked about this. The one that has most of our attention right now is the gene therapy drugs. These are ones that there's currently 40 of them roughly out there that are FDA approved. There's another 4,000 that are in the pipeline coming out. And these are drugs that an individual typically gets on a one-time basis that average about 2 to 4 million. They average about 3 million a pop when they happen. Have largely been pretty effective in a one-dose situation, but these are things for a plan of your size, if that becomes more prevalent, something that we will need to be mindful of, especially as you look at potentially moving on the healthcare continuum to take more risk in your plan. We will need to insure against that risk, because a couple $3 million claims by themselves could be really changing to the budget. We also shared with you that we would look at the funding mechanisms. You're currently on the left side of this scale at fully insured. On a very simplified basis, there is an interim basis. Level funded is kind of a hybrid type approach where you and the insurance company share risk within some limits. And then on the far right side of this is self-funded, where you're actually going to pay your own claims, hire somebody to administer those claims and have the network. And then for a group of your size, assuredly, we would put stop-loss provisions in, certainly for every individual paid during a plan year, and then probably as we eased into the on an aggregate basis as well to protect your budget. So I'll just keep that at a pretty high level unless you want to dive deeply into it. The next slide shows what Cigna's capabilities are. They actually have 5 different derivatives of what you can move on that continuum. I would contend in the short term that we need to get our risk pool and our loss ratio to a point where it makes sense to take more risk before we would recommend that you do so. Because there is upside of having positive experience of paying less. But remember, one of the reasons I told you that you would be fully insured is if the carrier made it attractive to do so. Currently, Cigna is doing that for you by investing in the city at a higher than desired loss ratio. We don't know what they would be willing to do. You're not under a cap situation with them for next year. So part of our diligence and part of what we'd like to share with you, as much as you're interested, is what would it look like if we were to take a step along this continuum, both in terms of upside possibility and in saving, or in worst case scenario, what you would have to pay additionally. Any questions about that? No. So us being fully insured, and I don't know if it's because of our size, but I always understood it as you don't get claims data. You get some. Level funded, you get more.
You get, as you move on that continuum, you get more and more. If you were to move to the far right side of that, we could capture the raw data from your claims payer into our analytics platform, and we'd have all the information and more that you would possibly want. You're absolutely right. The further you move on that continuum, the more you get. Cigna is giving, for being insured, about as much information for your group as we could hope for or ask for on an insured basis today.
Thanks.
Good question.
Can you give just a little bit more color to that answer? Like, give me an example of what you might see, what kind of data we can expect on the fully insured side versus like the mid-tier. Like how granular are we talking? Just generally.
Yeah. So currently we're getting a lot of aggregated information. Here's what's the medical claims component, the pharmacy claims component, monthly basis versus your enrollment. We do get information broken down by diagnostic group categories as well, so we can see what's driving that. We get large claims information. And as we move on that continuum, and I'll go all the way to the end, we'd get raw claims data feeds that would show every bit of claims information that has gone through that. It could help us be more predictive of the large claimants in the future. And you start to get more and more of that information as you're in the midpoint of this continuum.
Okay, so like more specific information about procedures and specific medications and stuff like that?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
And it helps us understand what are the levers that we could pull that potentially would have impact, and helps us also try to get out in front of, because right now we're counting on Cigna completely to identify individuals that have emerging large claims, and to not only help from a cost perspective, but to reach out to those individuals and try to engage them. Because when somebody has a diagnosis like that or has large claims, they and their family are in a tougher spot, right? How can we help them through things like that? And I'm moving through this fairly rapidly in the interest of your time, but I wanted to share also, Here's how we will come back to you in a summary format as we're working with Jennifer, working with Brianna. We're going to lay out, here's a continuum of savings opportunities that we have. And we say savings versus what the renewal otherwise would be. And we look at this not only from a cost standpoint in the range, but we also talk about the impact to your people associated with making those changes, right? You only offer these benefit programs to attract and retain good people. Part of our job when showing you here's what changes you could make is here is the impact that we typically see to your people and you know, what the reception could be. And also, one of the things that we need to talk about is if you move on that continuum towards self-funding, you take on as the plan sponsor more and more responsibilities. There's more work to be done when you ultimately if you ultimately become a self-funded plan sponsor. Here's the type of information, Chair Shields, that we're able to get today. And again, we're very fresh at this, but this is the type of information that we can currently get with you being on a fully insured basis. And again, relative to what we see from other fully insured carriers, this is a pretty robust amount of information. And before you leave, is there anything that's jumping off the page that I missed?
Well, no, I think that this is all. Yeah, if you can come to a microphone just so that we can capture it for the record.
No problem. The information provided, I think, gives you a good picture of how your population looks from a utilization standpoint. One of the things to point out, the center here, you've got your top high-cost claimants, all dependent spouses. Right here in the center, your top high-cost claimants, all dependent and spouses, not employees on your plan. I think that's just important for you to know. You've got some individuals that are coming onto the plan that are costing quite a bit. We often look at a dependent eligibility audit as one of the levers that we can pull. And if you've ever been through one of those, they're quite challenging. They ask your dependents to provide marriage certificates and birth certificates, but then we're ensuring the right individuals are being covered on your plan. And so that's one of the levers. You know, Rick was showing the previous slide of what are the things that we can do to try to lower your costs, and that would be one of them that sticks out. Just the other thing I'd comment on is getting this information. You know, you were asking about how much more information can we get if we're self-funded. If you were self-funded, while we would get the line-by-line data, you all would still see the aggregate data. It would just allow us to do more of our job to dig into that data to find solutions for you. So just wanted to point on that.
Obviously, we don't want to violate anybody's confidentiality. I just want to understand what you're looking at and how it changes. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for those. Another strategy to consider with the spousal component driving the large claims the way they are there ways that we could incent the spouses to take other coverage where it's available? These are kind of things that we could consider together. Again, it has an impact on your people, right? So we don't pretend like any of this is easy or not problematic in some regards. We're just trying to find the right balance.
Do you have any questions from the committee at this point or any other comments?
Do you want some general comments? Or?
Looks like we're in Q&A, so yeah, any questions or general comments, I think.
So all great information. I appreciate it. I feel like that's more than we've gotten in a while. So I try to just think of this like win-win for you all, for our people, and for the city as being good stewards of the taxpayers. So like trying to set some reasonable goals or expectations going into this renewal. So I think if I've heard correctly that, look, we kind of got to go with the horse that got us here, which is Cigna, right? Yes, and I don't necessarily disagree with that strategy with the limited time that we have. I think our goal, and you could help us formulate this, was like, how do we get to that next level, right? What do we need to do? What can we watch this next year to get us in a better position to go level funded, right? And how you can show us what that looks like. What things can we be watching throughout the year to try and get us to that? What levers can we pull without, what things can we pull without totally, breaking down the benefits package that we have, right? Like you talked about the dependent versus whatever. So I'm just trying to think of, putting you guys in a position of success and putting us in a success. But I think, from our perspective is like, here was our total spend last year. Here's what, employees contributed. Here's kind of where we ended up. Here's where we're going into this next year. And then what can we measure kind of throughout the year to see how we're doing and, how do we get to that middle range, right? And I think if we can find if we can capture some savings without totally blowing up our benefits package to our employees and we make some adjustments there going into this year, I think that would be a win, right? If we can do something. And then, how can we, where do we need to get? Maybe you guys can help us. Like, what do we need to show to be able to where we can move into a level funded plan, and even what a self-funded looks like down the road? Because it does sound complex, but a self-funded plan is scary. But if you do the right things to, we want certainty. Obviously, as a city, we want more certainty. But if we can plan for those things or see what it looks like, and then you bundle it all up, it feels fully insured for a lot of ways, right? As the broker, like a third-party administrator, handle claims.
And your
you still have a
participants-
card. It
Yeah.
does, it sounds scarier than it is in a lot of ways. But I have seen some of the data that you can run, and there's so much actuarial data out there that when you can start to get creative and figure out ways to do stuff. But I'm just trying to think of ways that we can move our way towards that and give you guys a position to be successful and to track it and give us some options. Come to us with some options to say, if we pull this lever, here's the savings, but this is what it changes the benefits. If we run it back the same as it is, this is what it looks like. And then we can better make those decisions.
That's exactly what we're going to be working on. Is here's the 2026 plan of action, working backwards for when you need to make decision from your budget. And then we're going to have a multi-year strategic plan to get from where we are today to where we would like to be and show you what that looks like. That becomes iterative over years, right? But we're not going to be in a position to be self-funded and have you take on those responsibilities in year one, but maybe by year 3 you would be. Here's the interim steps that we'll need to consider in order to get you in that spot.
Great.
And there are reasons that groups of your size, most of them are self-funded. When it comes to municipalities, that number goes down pretty significantly because the risk reward. But the trend certainly is for groups of your size to move that way and do the lift because of the amount of control, flexibility, and information that you get.
And one other thing I was thinking of too is like as we talk about the levers that we can pull. I know you'll get one of these questions when you're back in front of full council. We'll talk about kind of wellness initiatives. I think they're great because they don't always prove meaningful in the actual cost or anything like that. I know. I feel like on the plan that I'm on, is through my wife's work, there was something that we had to do proactively, whether it was, I don't know if it was blood work or, where you had to at least get a physical. Yeah, some biometric stuff. Now, I feel like that might be double-edged sword if something came back that was really bad. But anyway, I'm, again, just trying to think of things where I think where we're getting to in this situation is I do believe that there is a kind of a more, people are more conscious of their health these days than they've been in the past. There's far greater ways to learn about what's going on with your health, and the default reaction to the hospital or the drug is not, it's still there and you need it, but like if we can do things that help people become more proactive and understanding of their health and all of that, and that helps us some way, I think we're willing to listen to all of those things and open to any suggestions you guys might have that, in general, keep our people healthier and give them a good benefits package for themselves and their loved ones. So,
100% in on that, right? The participants control an important part of this equation, and trying to find a way within your environment to invite them, to support them in that journey. It's good for them. It's good for the city. So absolutely, no, what we're not going to do is throw a bunch of point solutions and things at the wall and hope some of them work. I would rather spend some time to internally try to vet our options in that regard and go forth with something that we collectively will lean into.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Kind of going along the lines of what Councilmember Lovell said in the plan management, you mentioned early on in your presentation about folks going outside the network and that being more expensive and there being costs there, will your group provide significant training to the employees, like interact with staff to provide training sessions of how everything works and what they can and can't do or what they should and shouldn't be doing?
We'll be happy to work with Jennifer and her team to help with communication education. I think that's really important. Sometimes participants see a lower premium rate, and if they don't get into the details, jump at that, right? But then if they find out that in that smaller network, my doctor's not in it, then the problems begin. So
Sure.
It's really important, especially when you've made major changes like you have, that we help support those decisions. And we want them to have that information up front. So the answer is yes. We want to work to help, kind of like this conversation, right? You've asked for communication education. Many of your participants are asking for the same thing. This is a complex environment they're living in. We need to try to help them.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Chair, just briefly, there's not a whole lot more I can add to the questions and the discussion we've already had, but I do appreciate, again, staff and working with you as our new partner, listening, because I like the phrase of the win-win-win idea, because all parties in this changing environment of this industry, I can't imagine how complex it is, how many variables are involved, as you guys have all discussed. But the fact that we can at least, this is the first time in several years that I remember having any kind of discussion like this in this environment. So I do appreciate that. I'm looking at all of you. And so I look forward to answering more questions down the road. And thanks for your patience. And this is a pretty involved group of people, and our council members are all the same. So
I would much rather be answering these questions now proactively and trying to help you than the spot that you were in last year.
Right.
It's our job collectively to keep us from being in that spot, and we'll look for your guidance as to how and when we elevate this type of information to the full council, because there was similar frustrations, right, with the entire group, and we committed that we were going to do our part to keep that from happening. So we'll look for your guidance there.
Forward to it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I guess I had one question and then a couple of comments. So you said that for groups of our size, it's typical to move towards self-insured, but less typical for municipality. Why is the risk reward different for a city than it would be for a company with 700 employees?
Tends to come down to two things in my mind. It's the budgeting process, and in your environment, you don't have the ability to go out and produce a product and increase revenue the way that private employers do. And then the final component that I would have is the risk reward of the people sitting on your side of the table in a public environment, the upside associated with savings versus the downside of missing a budget number. And as you move towards self-funding, that variability and vibration in the budget is something that causes a political environment stress. So for those two reasons, in my experience, is why the public entities have been more conservative in their funding approach to their health plans.
Okay, that's helpful. I guess comments that I have are kind of similar to what my colleagues had, that I'll be interested to see, what kind of levers we start to talk about and how those will function. I'm really interested in what kind of real return you see on the different ones, that, there are things that can sound really nice but don't necessarily lead to the savings, especially when we see what's driving the costs, putting in health and wellness plan with a pretty website doesn't change the fact that someone has a neurological disorder. And so what we can do to actually try to contain costs versus theater, So I'm interested to hear what's going to really be effective for us. I really appreciate this presentation. I think that the kind of health insurance 101, it's really good for us to have a shared base of knowledge and to have a chance to ask questions before we're in the middle of actually paying for a product, before we're in the middle of authorizing a new contract. It's good to be able to have this conversation when we're not under the gun to pass an ordinance. So that's really great. Thank you.
Is it okay that we work with the staff to kind of collectively say, based upon what we've heard today, here's when we're going to be in a position for the next update, and just not make that too long down the road and make a recommendation to you that we come back?
Yeah, and obviously we have municipal elections next month, so I think after a new council is seated, it would be great to make sure that whoever is returning, whoever is new, gets this base of information as well. So at some point soon after that, would be great to start educating them on the challenges that they're going to be facing going forward. So I think we're in on a good timeline to be doing that. So does staff need any other feedback from the committee at this point? And does everybody kind of agree with that assessment? Okay. Thank you.
So wait until after the election to come back to full council is kind of the direction?
Yeah, but I mean, that's in a month, so I don't
Right. It's
imagine
not
that
too
you'd get
far
it
out.
to us closer anyway, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm sitting here like I'm waiting you guys to tell me what to do, but next item on our agenda is TMP-3542, an ordinance approving amendment number 3 to the budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2026, is adopted by ordinances 10132, 10133, 10136, 10137, and 10138 by amending the authorized expenditures for the city. Mr. Gentry.
Good evening, Rick Gentry, Budget Manager. All righty. Good evening. The item before us, before you this evening is Budget Amendment number 3 to the FY26 fiscal year budget. There's several items included in this. I'll just do a brief presentation, and some of the larger items, we do have individuals in the audience that could answer questions if there are questions from the committee. So the 3 types of items included in this budget amendment, we do have some financial transfers, moving money between departments and funds, some spending authority changes and revenue changes in the FY26 budget, and also some updating some FTE count sheets. Transfers. The first significant transfers we have were first talked about and discussed in the presentation of the annual comprehensive financial report in the January meeting of Finance and Budget Committee. It was talking about the closure of the funds for the consolidation of the funds for the landfill post-closure and the landfill enterprise fund, and bringing those into the general fund. And that's where they've been recorded and reported on our financial statements for several years since the closure of the landfill. So it's just to bring those under one fund in the general fund, and it'll be under the solid waste cost center, which is located under the Public Works Department. Other transfers occurring on the list are consolidation of several funds. When we ended the FY25 year, we had over 100 different funds and different types of funds. We consolidated those into similar funds and types of groups, such as all of our grants and settlements under one fund called Grants and Settlements. So that includes the ARPA, VAWA grant, and our other grants that we receive as well. Just put them all under one fund, one location. Parks Development Fund, they used to have a debt service fund for an old debt fund that was existed, and that's where their revenue would come into. Then we'd end up transferring it to the construction. So to kind of clean that up, make it a little more simpler, we'll just closing the old debt service fund and have the revenue go directly to the development fund. Capital Project Fund is the culmination of consolidating General Projects Fund and the Green Street Fund and some other small construction funds into one fund. So those are ones that don't have a dedicated tax or funding source. It's just where we'd be funded either from the general fund or through grants. The third one there, or fourth one, is the short-term disability, workers' compensation, unemployment. Those used to be individual funds, and the dollars are much smaller for a couple of those funds. So those have been consolidated into one fund, their department, and they will continue to live there under the Human Resources Department. It'll be tagged with work tags for the different programs that they support. And then the bottom one, the last one, is the economic development. We had a laundry list of funds under economic development for all the different TIFs, TDDs, CIDs we had. So we're moving those all under Fund 800. And then they will each have a program tag. They'll tag them for either, and some of them have multiple funding, some have a CID and a TDD. So those will all be tagged appropriately and tracked within that fund.
So all those changes, everything is still going to be kind of tracked, itemized, but you're just consolidating for the accounting purposes?
For the accounting purpose, yes.
For coding
yeah.
purposes?
Yes,
Okay.
in Workday, we have the ability, we do have the ability now to track things at a much more detailed level with work tags.
Okay.
And so each one will have a Summit Fair, for example, have the Summit Fair work tag, and then its appropriate incentive district tied to it. And if it has more than one, then it gets multiple. So that's why we can track the revenue coming in as well as expenditures when we pay the payments out.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
The next one's a large transfer request, and Mr. Parks here probably can answer questions if there are any questions about the project, the Quarry Park Road location, relocation. Where Public Works is requesting a $1 million transfer from the unallocated general fund balance to transfer to the capital project fund for the design, acquirement of property, and construction of a connector road. Council maybe been involved in discussions and approved previously an agreement between the city and the city of Kansas City to pay for some legal services as well as their assistance in developing, because part of the road does lie within the city of Kansas City. So if you have any questions, Mr. Parks here.
Do we have any questions about the Quarry Park Road? Yes, please.
If Mr. Parks, if you could come up, please. Thank you. I think I had emailed you, full disclosure, earlier today. I had an inquiry from a resident that lives within that area, and so it's kind of good timing. And I just figured instead of asking you again afterwards, I'll just ask you now. So where are we with the actual, I know what the road situation is, but where are we with, is blasting still allowed there at the side with the quarry itself?
I don't believe so, but the city isn't permitting blasting. That's done by the state. And I'm not aware of any blasting activity that's happening within that quarry confine area.
So our sole responsibility is just this, to make sure this road, we have the temporary access, and then we're working on a permanent solution.
Correct. This is purely related to establishing permanent access to the few properties. I believe there's 4 to 5 properties that are serviced off of Clifford, which previously was accessed by Quarry Park Road. We had a roadway collapse that is really cost prohibitive for us to mitigate. And so we've established a interim or temporary route in service of those properties that is effective through the end of this year. We've been working in collaboration with the City of Kansas City because the majority of this alternate permanent route goes through Kansas City up to Bannister Road. Right now, we're just identifying the authorization of funds to carry out that work. So in regards to that, we should be presenting to the City Council an ordinance authorizing condemnation here within the month of March. For your review, I believe the City of Kansas City is pursuing the same authorization, and together Kansas City and Lee Summit, because it crosses our jurisdictional boundaries, will be pursuing a permanent roadway construction.
There's nothing else we can do. The current owner is still responsible for the property itself. We are just...
with regard to the undermined area and the activity for land reclamation that was occurring, that is a private endeavor.
Okay, all right. That clarifies it for me, so thank you.
Okay, please continue.
The revenue changes we'll be making and impacting FY26 budget is the receipt of the general obligation bonds. Those are the ones that were issued this past fall. Council authorized the issuance of bonds up to $50 million as part of the no tax increase that were passed in April of 2023. We bring in just a little under $49 million. We're bringing those bond funds into the, so this is just a recognition of those in the budget as those come in. Also, the receipt of the Matching Gateway Monument Fund proceeds from IDA. And then the general fund revenues for the solid waste, as part of that transfer, this is recognized as revenues that will be coming in that were going to the other fund previously. Spending changes, increases. One is the Quarry Park Road Reclamation or Relocation Project in the Capital Project Fund. And then the Jacomo Basin Pump Stations Project, so in the Wastewater Construction Fund. Mr. Thorne's here if you have any questions about that particular project. This evening it will be on a future CIP plan for next year. If anyone has any questions.
You can keep going.
Okay, thank you. And then the next two items are the communication strategic plan. That was part of the original list approved for the use of FY24 and unallocated general fund balance. Was included in last year's budget. They went through a process to select a contractor, but unfortunately didn't get finalized until after July 1st. So this is just to do that authorization of the spending out of the budget this year that's using the fund balances for that. And then the Gateway Monument, we actually transferred that money from general fund to the capital project fund. We do need to put the spending authorization in place for the Gateway Monument project, and it'll include the $300,000 that the council moved over from the general fund plus the $100,000. So it's a $400,000 spending authorization. And then the last one is the replacement of the boiler at Longview Community Center, the pool. Parks and Recs is unplanned expenditure needing spending authorization for Longview to make that project come about. We are requesting one decrease, and that's in the capital project bond fund. When we did the original budget back in May, they did a great job including all the anticipated expenditures for FY26. And then when we did the rollover, they also got the purchase orders in timely. So we actually have kind of a double accounting thing. So this is to clean it up, gets back down to the original spending authority, so we don't spend more money than we actually have there. And the last item is following the direction given by the committee. We've moved forward with some of the small changes in FTEs. These are not additions, they're simply updates as part of the IAM agreements passed last summer, and the pay and class plan is the adding the operations foreman position to the FTE sheets. It's not additional positions, it's just additional opportunities within the FTE count they have today. And then the finance department's requesting to change one accounting clerk FTE to an accountant FTE. With Workday, they can get by with fewer accounting clerks. It's a vacant position, but they do have a need to better serve the organization with another accountant down there. Any questions?
Do we have any questions from the committee? Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Seeing no questions, I would look for a motion.
Chair, I move to recommend City Council TMP-3542 An Ordinance approving Amendment Number 3 to the budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, as adopted by Ordinances 10132, 10133, 10136, 10137, and 10138 by amending the authorized expenditures for the city.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3542 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Vice Chair Lovell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda is TMP-3595, an ordinance authorizing the City of Lee Summit, Missouri to waive Lee Summit Housing Authority's payments in lieu of taxes pilots for the authority's fiscal year ending September 30, 2025, in the amount of $27,385.54. Ms. Berchter.
Hi, good evening. Brianna Berchter, Director of Finance. I don't have a presentation. That's exactly what is before you tonight, is just a waiver of the 2025 pilot. So if you have any questions, let me know.
And this is something we basically do for them every year,
Annually,
correct?
yep.
For many, many years. Okay. Do we have any questions from the committee? Councilmember Lovell, you have a question? Okay, sorry.
Just getting ready to read.
Okay. Seeing no questions, I would look for a motion.
Chair.
Yes.
I move to recommend City Council for approval TMP-3595, an ordinance authorizing the City of Lee Summit, Missouri to waive the Lee Summit Housing Authority's payment in lieu of taxes for the authority's fiscal year ending September 30, 2025 in the amount of $27,385.54.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3595 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lovell,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda is TMP-3614, an ordinance approving a purchase order by the City of Lee Summit to Municipal Emergency Services, MES, for structural firefighting gear in the amount of $203,562.40, and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to effectuate the same by and on behalf of the city. Who do we have presenting this? Okay.
Good evening. Mike Weisenbach, Assistant Fire Chief, Support Services. This is for recognition of funds for expired bunker gear for 50 of our firefighters.
I'm sorry, is your microphone on? I just can't hear you very well.
recognition of funds for 50 firefighters for their expired bunker gear.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? No? Then I would look for motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to recommend for City Council for approval TMP-3614 An Ordinance approving a purchase order by the City of Lee Summit to Municipal Engineering Services for structural firefighting gear in the amount of $203,562.40 and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to effectuate the same by and on behalf of the city.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion to second to move TMP 3614 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lovell.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda is TMP 3620, an ordinance approving an amendment to contract number 2025-076 to perform an operational review of the Municipal Courts to Raftelis Financial Consultants, Inc. for a total of $79,050 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same for the city. Mr. Dunning.
Thank you, Chair Shields and Committee. Mark Dunning, good afternoon, City Manager. So what's before you is an amendment to the original scope of services with Raftelis, who was the provider, to conduct the operational review for a municipal court and bring forward their findings and recommendations. The reason for the amendment is within the original scope, they were to present their final findings and report and recommendations to the municipal court judges, the court leadership, and the city management. And so we felt that it would be appropriate for Raftelis to come before the mayor and the council to present their body of work rather than relying on, a city manager or the municipal court judges to make, to try to represent and present their recommendations. So that's what this amendment would entail, is having 3 of their leadership team members that were a part of that review to come forward to the mayor and the council with their findings.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason it's here is that amount puts it over the city manager's authorization of $75,000.
Okay. What was the contract amount prior?
It was $69,075.
Okay, gotcha. So it was an increase of about $10,000?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but it bumps it over that level that you
Bumps it over the
approved.
$75,000.
Do we have any questions from the committee?
Well, I think that answered it. So this isn't an additional $79,000. This is an amendment of $10,000, increasing it. Gotcha.
correct.
And did they already do that presentation to you all?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I'm good. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, did you want to make a statement before we? I will recuse from this vote. Okay. Any further questions from the committee?
Nope.
Okay, then I would look for a motion.
Chair,
Yes.
I move TMP-3620 to the full council, an ordinance approving an amendment to contract number 2025-076 to perform an operational review of the municipal courts to Raftelis Financial Consultants, Inc. for a total of $79,050 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same for the city.
Second.
And just to clarify, that was a motion to recommend approval?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second, to recommend approval of TMP 3620 to full city council. Can we get a vote, please?
Chair Shields.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lovell.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is TMP 3623, an ordinance approving the use of Public Safety Association cooperative purchasing contract with Styker Sales LLC for the purchase of 11 Expedition Powered Stair Chairs from Styker Sales LLC in the amount of $191,378.56. Hi.
Good
Mr. York.
afternoon. Dave York, Assistant Chief of EMS. Don't have a big presentation for you. Those are to replace some aging equipment in our fleet with a new product that'll offer better patient movement for our customers and ergonomic advantages for our providers.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? And I would just note for the record, it was pointed out to me that it should be Styker rather than Styker as currently printed on the agenda, so we'll read it with that amendment. And I would look for a motion.
Chair.
Yes.
I recommend to council for approval TMP-3623, an ordinance approving the use of the Public Safety Association cooperative purchasing contract with Styker Sales LLC in the purchase of 11 Expedition Powered Stair Chairs from Styker Sales LLC in the amount of $191,378.56.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3623 to City Council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lovell.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda is 2026-7517, a presentation regarding the FY26 budget update. Mr. Stoyanov. Good afternoon, Eric Stoyanov, Budget Manager. So today we're going to present the updated budget versus actual report through January of 2026. So we'll start with general fund revenue outlook, then move on to the general fund expenses before finishing up with the public safety sales tax. You've all seen this slide before, but the city's main goal is to have a positive outlook for the major revenue and expenditure categories. Overall, we're in line with budget estimates on both revenue and expenditures, but there are a few accounts on both expenditures and revenues that we're just have cautious outlooks on that I will get into further here in a moment. So here's a high-level overview of what the revenue is looking like for general fund. Sales tax, that includes sales tax, use tax, and marijuana tax, but in line with budget estimates so far. Franchise tax, we'll get into the numbers here in a minute, but just showing some cautious trends compared to what we've seen in past years. Motor vehicle is up compared to budget as of right now, and then other revenues encompasses things like cigarette tax, some of our intergovernmental, school resource officers, investment earnings. It's kind of a mix of various categories. So this provides a look at the actual financials. So you have the annual budget, the actuals through January, remaining budget, and percentage of budget utilized. Put the target of 58% just given a January time, but as I'll mention, not everything follows a perfect trend where it's 58% at this point in the year. So starting at property tax, from what we've seen so far with property tax, we're actually above where we budgeted. However, there are a lot of questions that we still have regarding property tax with the senior property tax credits and also the commercial tax credits. And there are a few things that were just labeled when we got them that were confusing, and we're reaching out to the county for some more clarification. So I would not say that this number is a finalized number. It's still subject to change, but that is what we have as of right now for property tax. For sales and use tax, as I mentioned, we are in line with where we expected for budget. Actually just got the newest March numbers before we came down. Sales tax through March is now up 1% compared to last year. Use tax is up 16.6%, and so combined sales and use tax is up 3.9% compared to this time last year. So overall, it's looking good. We've just seen a major shift in the makeup of where those revenues are coming from, and use tax is outperforming sales tax by a wide margin at this point. I think the split between sales and use is about 80-20. Motor vehicle tax, this is another category that is performing well. The main thing driving this is the fuel tax. Fuel tax is up more than 10% right now. The license and sales tax for motor vehicle is down 2.7 and 1.9%. So those are a little bit cautious just to look at moving forward because this is the final year of those scheduled fuel tax increases. So we'll go back to more meager growth on the fuel tax. Franchise tax is an area that we're just underperforming where we expected to in budget. Cable really fell off a cliff for us last year. We were at $780,000 in FY24, and we ended at $420,000 in FY25. And so we'd been seeing some gradual declines, and then it really just dropped on us. And then electric is also another one that's surprisingly down. It's down about 5.5% compared to this time last year. We are seeing natural gas up right now, but our two biggest months are February and March, and given how mild it's been, just looking at that one a little bit cautiously. Fines and forfeitures and licenses and permits, those are roughly in line with what we're expecting for budget. Both of those tend to pick up in the last quarter of the year, it seems, is when we get a lot more revenue. So even though those are 52 and 55%, it's in line with what we've seen with actual trends throughout the past. Charges for service is another one that's in line. The biggest one there is ambulance fees. And then that other revenue category, I mentioned that's like cigarette tax, school resource officer revenue, grant agreements, investment earnings. I will mention this only reflects our first quarter investment earnings. Our second quarter just got booked actually recently, and so that's up to 46% instead of this 37%. The biggest thing I wanted to note in the other revenue is that it includes the Ground Emergency Medical Transportation Program, the GEMT program that reimburses for uncompensated costs for ambulance services. And so there was a change in how that revenue was calculated, which caused our budget to be higher than we expected. And so we've lowered that revenue estimate about $400,000 based on what we're seeing now. But that is the biggest change to that other revenue section. And then transfers in, those just occur regularly. And so we expect to see the full $527,000. I will pause there if there's any questions on revenue before I jump into the expenses for general fund. Do you have any questions on revenue? No, please keep going. Expenditure outlook, personnel, we are running a little bit high in particular because of overtime, so we are cautious on that front. All of the other total general fund operating costs are in line with budget or below, so looking good. And these are our numbers so far. So as you can see, we're at 62% with personnel. So far, we've spent 75% of our budgeted overtime this year, and so we are just seeing that run significantly higher than it did last year and several years before that. So that is what's causing personnel to be above where we wanted it to be. I'd also want to note that the capital and finance charges, it's just a cleanup that we have to do. The finance charge included the principal and interest on our pumper and ambulances. The budget only had the interest in the finance charges, and then it had the principal and the capital. And so that's why you see the 292% for finance charges. It's supposed to be split up among those two lines. So it's just cleanup on the back end. But everything else on the expense side is well within range of what we would expect at this point. Pause before I jump into public safety. Do you have any questions, Councilmember Funk?
So what's driving our overtime up?
I would have to defer. I know public safety makes over 90% of our overtime costs, so I'd have to defer to them for the underlying trends. I don't know if anyone.
Is it Mr. Osterman? Come on back down, I guess.
Good evening, Brian Osterman, Deputy Fire Chief. So with a minimum staff department like we are, we utilize overtime quite a bit just to fulfill minimum staffing requirements in times of vacancies or just daily staffing. And that's always been something that we try to track and make accurate predictions of. Year to year, different things affect that, which affects our usage of overtime. We also, to begin this year, we did in efforts to kind of put a better cap on that. We did reduce our initial request of overtime to lead us into this year, which with our staffing, we've been very positive in our staffing as far as we haven't had those big vacancies to really pull on, but we've still been in situations where we've had to use overtime significantly. So within the fire budget, we are over budget as far as where we wanted to be this year, according to overtime. And that's a conversation we need to have with city admin to see how that looks going into the rest of the year, rest of this budget year.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Sure.
So is it that, compared to like what you were spending last year, is it over that too, or did you just budget more conservatively this year and then not hit that conservative number?
In past years, we've tried to limit our ask on overtime, and what has many times happened at mid-year, we do a supplemental request to reinforce that budget line. I would say what we're spending this year doesn't track significantly different than we did the year before. We just didn't start the year with the funds really to sustain that as we hoped that they would.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from the committee? Okay.
John Bunker, Police Department Representative. I don't have much to add to that other than from our standpoint, minimum staffing is part of that. We have 20 vacancies right now, but it's not the bulk of that. For us, it's more unpredictable, critical instance that we'll see, like, our detectives working long hours on certain cases, could be homicides, things of that nature. So that would be the biggest. And then obviously we have special events each year, which we staff accordingly for. So that plays a part as well.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, please continue, Mr. Stoyanov. All right, so wrapping things up on the public safety sales tax side. So on their front, sales tax is their only revenue source. They're mimicking basically what we're seeing in the general fund with their trends of sales tax seeing meager growth, use tax seeing significant growth. On the personnel front and the operating side, both are looking well within budget. And so this shows the revenue just slightly lower on the percentage just because they don't have marijuana tax. It's only sales and use. And then on the operating actuals, this is what their breakup looks like. And so you'd see well below that 58% target. Repairs and maintenance, that included just one big ticket item for the police department that was budgeted, but it's the license plate readers. It was about 170,000 of that 185 actual is just that one purchase. And so it was planned, budgeted. I know 88% is obviously higher than 58%. So just wanted to note that. And any questions? Do we have any questions from the committee? I appreciate the update, and I appreciate your color-coded, good, bad, neutral kind of outlook. It's very helpful. So Thank you as always. Yep. All right, that takes us into roundtable. Do we have any roundtable from the committee? No? Any roundtable from staff?
Just a little bit of a reminder of the budget timeline. So we will be back next month at Finance and Budget with the city manager presentation of the general fund revenue projections. And then, of course, we cross the election, but in May, we'll come back with presentation of department and fund budgets. So.
And I literally always forget this. When does the committee get reconstituted? And if we don't have a quorum, since we have some folks who won't be running for reelection to their seats, what happens at that point?
Yeah, so I think then we'll have to pivot a little bit, maybe go straight to council with some of those. But I think after the election, I think the new mayor will implement the mayor pro tem, and then that mayor will set the budget, the committee members, so.
Okay.
I think that first month is kind of.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, thank you. Any other roundtable? And if not, then we will adjourn this meeting at 5:17 p.m. Thank you so much.